Welcome back to RV News, your trusted source for breaking upgrades, analysis, and insights on the revaluation of the Iraqi Dinar, the Vietnamese Dong, and all things currency reset. If you're holding on to the IQD or the VND, or even just watching these developments closely, you've come to the right place. In today's report, we are diving deep into one of the most talked about and controversial upgrades in the currency revaluation community, the shocking buzz that the Iraqi Dinar may have already been positioned for a staggering rate of $3.81, and that banks across the globe are on high alert as the world waits to see if this move finally signals the long-awaited RV event. Stick with me as we go through the context, the rumors, the confirmations, and the possible outcomes for holders everywhere, because this could be a defining moment in history. Now for years, the Iraqi dinar has been at the center of global speculation. People around the world, from small retail investors to hedge funds, and even governments behind the scenes, have been monitoring Iraq's financial progress and the currency reforms being pushed forward. The possibility that the dinar could revalue has been both dismissed by skeptics and passionately defended by believers. But when numbers like $3.81 start showing up in chatter, that's when the ears of even the most reluctant analysts perk up. This rate is not random. It closely mirrors Iraq's pre-war exchange rate, which hovered around $3.20 before the sanctions, instability, and conflict that collapsed the nation's currency in the early 2000s. So when we hear that Iraq could be moving back into that territory, it's not just a wild guess, it's a reflection of a financial history that Iraq has already lived through. What makes this moment particularly explosive is the fact that multiple reports are suggesting banks are actively preparing for rate adjustments. These are not just small-town rumors, but whispers from major financial institutions that have reportedly placed their systems on standby, ready to accommodate a rate change that could rock global markets. When banks are on high alert, it's not without reason. They don't mobilize resources for fantasies. They prepare when liquidity events, financial adjustments, or global currency realignments are possible. If we truly are seeing banks bracing themselves for a new rate of $3.81, then we are sitting right on the edge of a monumental transformation in currency valuation. Let's break down why $3.81 is not only plausible, but potentially the most logical figure for Iraq to aim for. First, Iraq is not a weak economy. It's an oil-rich nation sitting on some of the largest reserves in the world. The World Bank, IMF, and other international bodies have acknowledged Iraq's wealth in natural resources. And with oil prices climbing steadily in 2025, Iraq's revenues are stronger than ever. If you measure currency strength by assets, Iraq more than qualifies for a rate in the high $3 range. Remember, countries like Kuwait, with far smaller populations and similar oil dependence, sustained a currency rate over $3.20, sometimes as high as $3.30. Iraq's reserves of oil, gold, and foreign currencies could easily support a return to $3.81. On top of that, the Iraqi government has been actively reforming its financial system. Prime Minister Soudani and the Central Bank of Iraq have taken bold steps over the last 2 years to fight corruption, modernize banking, and stabilize the dinar against inflation. By pegging the currency against the US dollar in recent years, Iraq was able to prevent hyperinflation, but this was only meant as a temporary measure. Now, with financial stability becoming stronger and trade relationships expanding, Iraq is in a position to flip the switch and return the dinar to its former strength. If this happens, $3.81 is more than just a number. It's a statement of Iraq's restored sovereignty. The other piece of this puzzle involves international agreements. There's growing speculation that Iraq's oil sales and trade contracts with major players like China, India, and even parts of Europe are being recalibrated to allow for stronger exchange mechanisms. If contracts have been secretly negotiated with a revalued dinar in mind, banks would absolutely need to be on alert. They would need to adjust their systems, update their forex mechanisms, and prepare liquidity pools to handle the sudden shift. That kind of preparation is not done lightly, and reports that certain banks are testing systems for higher IQD rates adds even more weight to this developing story. For holders of the dinar, the possibility of $3.81 is life-changing. Imagine someone who has even 1 million dinar, which in today's market may have cost them around $700 to $1,000 depending on the spread and fees. If the RV were to lock in at $3.81, that same individual would suddenly be sitting on $3.81 million. This is the dream that has kept so many invested for years, even through setbacks, delays, and countless rumors. But what makes this moment different is the combination of real-world banking chatter and political movements that align perfectly with the possibility of this becoming reality. Skeptics will argue, as they always do, that this is another round of speculation that will fade away. They'll point to Iraq's ongoing internal challenges, the influence of external powers, and the complexity of global monetary systems. But even those skeptics cannot deny that Iraq has been taking unprecedented steps toward reintegration into the international financial community. For instance, Iraq's recent moves to pay off outstanding debts, its strengthening of foreign reserves, and its alignment with global financial regulations show that it is positioning itself for something much larger than a minor rate adjustment. A jump to $3.81 is not a simple increase, it's a full restoration of financial identity. Let's talk about the banks again, because this is where things get very interesting. Bank insiders have long been the focus of RV speculation. For years, we've heard whispers of screens lighting up and rates appearing behind the scenes. Most of the time, these rumors have not materialized into public action. But the difference in 2025 is that we are now seeing multiple confirmations of systems being tested, staff being trained, and alerts being sent out to prepare for something imminent. If banks are on high alert, it usually means timing is short. They wouldn't place entire departments on notice for months on end unless something big was coming. So the question becomes, are we days, weeks, or hours away? Some reports even suggest that certain exchanges are already being simulated internally with placeholder rates. This means banks are practicing transactions as if the rate were live, ensuring there are no technical glitches when the switch finally flips. If you understand how financial institutions work, you know they cannot afford mistakes during an event of this magnitude. Billions, possibly trillions of dollars could move across borders in an instant. The level of preparation required is staggering, and the fact that it's happening right now points to the seriousness of the moment. Now, for those holding both Iraqi Dinar and Vietnamese Dong, you may be asking, what about the VND? Will it move alongside the IQD? While today's focus is on the $3.81 dinar rate, many analysts believe the Vietnamese Dong will also experience a dramatic increase. Albeit at a lower scale, the Dong is currently undervalued, and Vietnam's economic growth has been extraordinary. In recent years, some speculate rates between $0.40 to $2 for the VND could accompany the IQD's jump, though these numbers remain more speculative. Still, the tandem movement of both currencies has always been part of the larger reset discussion, and banks preparing for IQD may also be preparing for VND at the same time. But let's return to Iraq and its position globally. The nation's geopolitical landscape is shifting rapidly, with stronger alliances forming and new trade deals being signed. Iraq is not the same fragile state it was in the mid-2000s. It is leveraged now, particularly with its energy exports. A stronger dinar makes sense not only domestically, but also in terms of its global positioning. By revaluing, Iraq sends a message to investors, trade partners, and even rivals it is back on the map as a serious economic force. That kind of messaging is priceless, and $3.81 is the number that communicates it most effectively. For investors, the next steps are crucial. If banks truly are on alert, then the window for preparation is closing quickly. People should be reviewing their currency holdings, understanding the exchange process, and preparing their documentation. If the rate goes live, banks may experience overwhelming demand, and not everyone will be able to exchange immediately. There will likely be tiers, appointments, and perhaps even special redemption centers to handle the flow. Those who are ready in advance will be in the best position to benefit from this once-in-a-lifetime event. It's also worth noting that some insiders believe there will be multiple rates available, depending on the type of exchange. For example, the public rate might hover around $3.81, but those who qualify for contract rates through private appointments or specific agreements might see even higher numbers. This has been part of the speculation for years, and while unconfirmed, it adds another layer of intrigue to what is unfolding. Banks being on high alert could mean they are preparing to manage not just one uniform rate, but a tiered system that requires additional coordination. So where does this leave us? We are at the crossroads of rumor and reality, but the evidence pointing toward reality has